welcome, and thank you all for coming tonight. We have another program. Some of you were here for the Use Your Brain All 3, so some of you kind of have a template for what I'll talk about tonight. But the neuroscience of leadership at home and work, and I should add also and play, because really I could end this conversation right now if we would all just go outside and play in the garden next door, right? So neuroscience really is something that I started studying even as a very young child after having encephalitis. And they told me, amongst many, many other things, that my seizure disorder, grand mal seizure, would last forever. And so I began to fight that both emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually, and said, this isn't, I mean, of course I didn't dare tell the adults, but inside me I knew that that was not the life pathway that I wanted. So I began to mess with my brain and use my brain and my body and all aspects of myself to tell stories that I was this or that on the inside, and begin to really work with my brain, knowing somehow intuitively that my brain was a muscle. And by the time I was 15, I no longer had the seizure disorder. So I'm here to say that we're all doing neuroscience, and we're all leaders, and we're all doing it at home and work. I'm just here tonight to remind you of some really important parts of it, because the more we know, obviously, the more we get to choose. So again, thank you so much. Enjoy some snacks. This is real informal, so please ask questions. That's the part of the format. I know some other people will be coming in later, and one of the things that I think is the most important that we can do in this very moment is know ourselves in a way that causes us to stop, turn heartward, and begin to slow the heart rate down. So what we know, and I've studied, as some of you know, a great deal with heart math and spent a year doing research at in a clinical setting for a treatment center for addicts, that everything from addictions to sex, to addictions to self-harm, to more simple ones, not that I would call them simple, but codependency and just inability to thrive in relationship or in the workplace. And really what it came down to, and I had the fortune of being able to work with the brain and using actually Jeffrey Fannon's brain caps and the brain mapping, and to use heart maths, their register that was also on a computerized system that I could see where their heart rate was, and we could track what they were doing, what they were thinking, and the things that we were saying to them, and the things that they were saying to themselves, and how that affected their centers. And before that, of course, I'm dating myself now because I also was at Georgetown University when Candace Pert actually scientifically proved that we have 3 separate operating systems: the gut, the heart, and the head. And that information literally goes from the intuition, the gut, through the brain and the heart, which, by the way, until a century ago, the brain was where we came up with the decisions we were making. We referred to that inner world. And that still is where most of our information, even going to the brain, comes from the brain and the heart. So, and then we have, of course, the amygdala, which is basically the emotional tripwire that, works like 6,000 times faster than our regular mechanisms within. Welcome, come on in. Thanks for coming. And make yourself at home. So that tripwire then goes through the limbic brain, right? And then into the neocortex. But when we have a big decision to make, just right off the bat, what do? You're pointing to your brains. You think about it. And we even say that, well, let me think about it, right? When's the last time you say, well, let me feel about it? Sometimes in Durango, I can catch myself, let me feel into that. But then people kind of look wide at me and say, oh yeah, she's the shrink that really kind of is weird anyway. Right? So that honestly, that's been my path as a kid, to absolutely prove that these things that we think are ours forever, and that they're not resolvable, that we cannot overcome them. Very medical model kinds of things. I'm here to tell you that you can. And that it's not a journey that has to be hard or difficult. I've learned that, it doesn't really work in straight lines, which I was hoping, it goes up and then flat, that's kind of how things have gone. And yet, some people have been able to say, this is what I'm committed to, and this is where I'm going. Speaking of that, I did a class for tension releasing, David Bersellity's trauma releasing exercises here in Durango, at Yoga Durango, for 6 weeks. And 4 adolescents with seizure disorders actually voluntarily came. Of course, I invited their doctor to come and oversee that. And every single one of them reduced their seizures. One actually stopped having seizures and is now off her medication. So it's everywhere. It's so important to just know that. So if you remember anything I've said, that's what it is, because you have the power. Welcome. Thanks for coming. And as you reinforce that power, as you remind yourself, gosh, I've got this brain, and watch what you think and watch what you put your attention on, you get to move forward and you get to have things work in alignment, and then things get easier. And they also, from research studies, they also land in a deeper place, and therefore, hi, thanks for coming. Yeah, come on in. And as they land, we also know that they tend to last longer, so that the neuroplasticity in the brain, as we reinforce it, creates that new neural network. So whatever it is, in my opinion, I haven't been able to prove it because I don't know how, but I'm here to say that it's our nature to be that brilliant leader at home and work and in play. Think about when you were a kid. Remember that moment that you waited to have that temper tantrum? That perfect moment so that you could get what you wanted? Oh, come on. Do you remember? Yeah. Nobody else remembers?
Well, they were not planned.
Rich remembers. Do you wait till that perfect moment when you know that nobody is going to deny you? In the restaurant, at mom's knitting club, in the middle of a meal at dinner when grandma's just walked in. Those times, right? And that was you. That was you being the neuroscientist working the system and working it for your best. And that every time you think about it, even in the moments that you're here right now, your brain has upgraded to its highest system that it can actually do at this moment. So I'll talk to you a little bit about more of the research that we have. Of course, oops, I go back. So that research, of course, was mine, as well as Joe Dispenza's, Greg Braden's, Gottman, but I'll just focus on a couple of them. My research really has been, as I said, a lifetime, but that 0 to 7 blueprint, that template that you get, that information that you take in unconsciously while you're mostly in a dream state, while you're mostly sleeping, while you're mostly just unconscious. You're taking in meaning, you're making meaning on it, and you're making decisions and putting together a belief system that will help you survive this thing called mom, dad, family, community, planet Earth, church, everything. Yeah, you know that. So the research that I've done is, and I went and got my PhD in clinical psychology so I could prove this theory wrong, and I'm still trying. So haven't done such a good job of trying. That blueprint, that template, that original 0 to 7 does not hang out with you in some way. So what I have found from research is that 0 to 7 template will be in the driver's seat. Dr. Joe Dispenza and some other psychology programs talk very directly about the research that anywhere from 85 to 95% of us, by the time we're 35, are 95% unconscious. Meaning we have the same goals, the same thoughts, the same beliefs, the same behaviors. It might be a different color or a different size or a different location, but the same beliefs, the same behaviors, the same attitudes, the same perceptions. I'm looking at your faces.
That's really boring.
That's really boring, huh? It's kind of scary.
I'm different from yesterday.
Okay, right? And yet, Think about the way that you ran your day today. Think about the beliefs that drove you from the moment your eyes popped open this morning. Were those different? I won't put you on the spot, but think about that for all of us. Yes, we can say that we're different today than we were 5 years ago or 10 years ago. But the research shows that we are definitely, unless we're doing work, like Barbara does the Enneagram, you know, some of you others do coaching and other work, consulting, working with corporations, okay? That is why I'm standing here now, because you cannot leave here with the same belief system that you showed up here with. Even if you want to. Sorry. That's my manipulation part, right? So that the neuroscience of leadership really begins in that 0 to 7 template. The good news for those of you, because you know, when you said that about, well, I'm different than I was yesterday. I tell the story of how when Dr. Joe Dispenza was up talking about his newest book at the time, which was Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, I went up, Miss Party's pants up on the stage and said, well, what if I like myself? And before I finished the sentence, I just closed my eyes and thought, oh, did I really just say that to this world famous guy? And he looked at me up and down and he said, yeah, that. And that began our relationship, in which I'm one of his consultants and I'm working on a coach training program for him. So that said, yes, we do. It's great that I was fighting that, you know, like I've got to break the habit of being myself. Well, what if myself is okay? Remember the book, you know, I'm okay, you're okay? Yeah. So what if I'm okay? Well, he wasn't saying that at all. But what he was referring to is that point of view, that way that we drive our lives from the inside out, mostly unconscious, mostly not knowing. Or if we do know, we can't stop ourselves. Right? How many times do we say, I'm going to do this differently this morning or this afternoon? I'm going to get that workout in. I'm going to change that relationship. I'm going to confront that thing I've been avoiding. I'm not going to procrastinate today. And how many times do we get the result of the not? I'm not going to do that. And then we absolutely do that. So that's my research, that 0 to 7 template. Again, the positive aspect of it is that the more you know, the more you get to choose. So if you know what that belief system is, and the deeper you go into that belief system, things like I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, there's never enough energy, there's never enough time, I'm not enough, you know, those kinds of deeper beliefs, those are the things that then will set you free. And then that doesn't mean, so far from my research, that it doesn't show up to go, hi, I'm here to help you out in this stressful situation. Remember, you're not good enough, and you don't have enough time, and you don't have enough money, and you're not good in relationships, and you're not good at anything you do, and that's why you're having this. So just kind of bow to me, and we'll be at peace again, and you'll be okay. Just believe me, you're not enough, right? So it'll show up to help you, when in fact it's really not a help at all. But that we are creatures of habit. I'm contradicting myself because I say, well, it's our nature to be whole, to be aligned, to be our highest, best, most inspired selves. And yet, it's real easy to let that old, unconscious template that we're not aware of be in the driver's seat. So when you catch yourself saying, gosh, you know, I've just wanted so much to do X, Y, or Z, and I just never get around to it. Or my dream has always been to move to or live or vacation or love this way or live this way. But I'm 60 now and I probably can't do that. Or I'm too old, or I'm, you know, not strong enough, or I'm not fit enough, or I'm not smart enough, or whatever that is. That's that 0 to 7 template.